always. Hey, everybody. Welcome to FEI, Freight Executive Insights. I am not the executive with the insights. John Tillison is, and he's at Duie Pyle. And you may be wondering why Duie Pyle again. It's a 100-year anniversary, one. And two, through the last interview with John Luciani, I discovered John Tillison, an old lost brother from Roadway Express back in the District 15, Western Pennsylvania area. I was out in Altoona, and you were in the Pittsburgh area, national accounts, right, my friend?
That's correct. Yeah. I spent a little longer than you did at Roadway Express. So I went to graduated from Penn State and was in central Pennsylvania. And Roadway Express was famous for having a really good management training program.
Yeah.
So I was hired into that program. They had a smaller break bulk in the Harrisburg area back at the time. And I spent about 2.5 years in that training program in Central PA. And then my career took me on quite a journey at Roadway Express. I went to Philadelphia as a part-time dispatcher. I was promoted to terminal manager in Hazleton, then terminal manager in Reading, Pennsylvania. I was there in Reading, for those of us who have been around for a while. In 1994, there was a national Teamster strike. So,
I was D15 security officer during that
Yes.
thing. Yeah. As I was a Turk back in the day, and people who are Roadway back in that day know what a Turk was. But yeah, I was D15 security during that strike.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little different in a terminal like Reading. Reading, just a bunch of good old farm boys. I mean, they wanted nothing to do with the strike. So, as far as the strike itself and the employees there, it was a non-event. And the bigger event was watching customers and competitors who were either non-union or had Carolina Freight and a couple others back in the day had said, hey, they're not going to honor the strike and cross.
Right.
So we literally had some of our largest accounts sending competitors of ours into our terminal to pick freight up. So, but then my journey went from operations into sales. That's how you and I met in Pittsburgh at the end of 1994. And I spent 8 years in Pittsburgh as a corporate account executive. So I was calling on the national accounts based in Western PA and through New York, Buffalo, Syracuse, and Rochester. So that took me through 2002. And then they asked me to go back in operations. I moved to Columbus, Ohio to run the Columbus Break Bulk. In 2008, I was promoted to Group Vice President of Northeast Sales for what had become then at that point in time YRC. So
yeah.
If you recall, Mike, and for those out there who lived through that, Yellow purchased Roadway in 2002, right?
Yeah.
So for the first 5 years, Yellow, there were two separate organizations. Yellow kept us, left us alone, left us to do our thing at Roadway Express. Then the economy started to turn south in 2000, end of 2007, and in 2008. So YRC had to begin to put the two networks together. It started in sales, and that's what I was in charge of in the Northeast. And just quick going ahead, and so that's coming into my 27th year there. I could see that the two organizations were not a cultural fit. I work with a lot of great Yellow folks. We have some terrific people here at Duie Pyle who are Yellow legacy employees. This was more about their executive team out in Overland Park. And I didn't care for them. I got to know them because of the latter part of my career, and it was I just see it was not a cultural fit. Roadway historically was a very operationally first focused entity. You delivered service, and that provided the support for you to really price your business effectively from a sales perspective. So I could see there wasn't a fit. I had an opportunity at the end of 2009 to join a union-free, non-union carrier in Pittsburgh called Duie Express. Great company. So I spent
always a
10
tough
years.
competitor, bro. Always a tough competitor. Wow.
Yeah, it's a great company. They have terrific ownership and culture. So I spent 10 years there, and then over the years, other folks that I had worked with at Roadway, and especially in Carlisle, had migrated and had left, as I did, Roadway, and came here to Duie Pyle, and they They contacted me and said, "Hey, there's a position here that they want to talk to you about." I saw that was a position I was not going to likely be offered for various reasons in Pittsburgh. So I chose to go ahead and make a move in April of 2019. So that brings me. I just celebrated my 5th year here at A Duie Pyle. A Duie Pyle is based here in Westchester, Pennsylvania, about 25 miles northwest of downtown Philadelphia. And to Mike, to your point, we just turned 100 years old, so there's quite a few celebrations going on around that amazing American success story.
Yeah, no, and it really is amazing, John. Let's talk a little bit about A Duie Pyle, but I just wanted to mention to everybody, if you're not an LTL and you're listening to this, the pedigree of John Tillison, you can't get a better one. You just can't. You can't go from Roadway to Pitt, Ohio to A Duie Pyle and not know exactly how LTL is supposed to be done, because those are three
Yeah, I've been quite blessed.
excellent
So
organizations.
yeah, I intend to make this is my last stop in with what'll be 40 years now in this business. So this is my I intend to make this my last stop along what has been a very blessed, an amazing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were telling me, you graduated from Penn State and said, I need a job. So you looked up the want ads and found a job, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting also. I just want to point out as well, Roadway people, alums in our vintage or near our vintage, are going to think, wow, you went to Harrisburg, which was just a small break bulk. And then years later, you went back there and it was like, what, 2 different docks, an inbound dock and an outbound dock, and they were like 200 doors each, right? It's a 400
Yeah,
dock.
so it was a twin operation, twin dock. So the outbound dock was 290 doors,
Right.
and the inbound dock was 120 doors. So now pressure packed because it had such a huge impact on the overall freight movement, and especially in the Northeast. But it was a lot of fun. I was 20 years younger, so I wouldn't be able to do that at my age now because it's a grind. So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a different age now. Now it's in the past, but it's a great memory though.
Yeah. I remember when I got in an argument with our district manager and our line haul manager at District 15 out in, Copley, Ohio, 211, right? Because when I was running the clusters out there in central Pennsylvania, the Altoona, Du Bois State College, et cetera, on my outbound dock, I started separating my Harrisburg freight and my 211 freight, and so I stopped sending like half of my freight. I stopped sending back to the parent break bulk because they were running right past me going to Harrisburg line haul every day, anyways.
Oh
So
yeah,
yeah, there was about a 2-hour conversation, and finally they said, "Well, wait a minute, you're right, because you're killing all this different." But anyway, let's talk about A Duie Pyle, brother. Let's talk about A Duie Pyle real quick. You are the integrated solutions, right? You are senior vice president of integrated solutions. Talk about that for a minute, and then let's get into the topic at hand that you want to talk about, which is really customer relations and how things have really changed through your career and what they're like right now in the current situation.
yeah. So A. Dewey Pyle and John Luciani spoke of this. But we'll hit about $850 million this year. So a little under 70, probably around 73% of that revenue is still in the legacy LTL business. But Pyle also has a legacy to go along with that warehousing business and that side of our business, as well as dedicated and a non-asset brokerage operation is emerging in it. And we're intentionally trying to increase the percentage of those 3 entities, not to diminish the growth, which we are growing nicely in LTL, but we want to spread it more evenly, ultimately across the board between the warehousing, especially the dedicated. That's a much quicker and faster growing entity on that dedicated side. And then as we continue to build out warehouses, we have 17 warehouses, about 5 million square feet under roof, with upwards of 100 customers in those warehouses, and that's just a huge competitive advantage for us because we can approach a customer and market to them not only the truckload, non-asset truckload into a building. It can be our building. We warehouse it, we inventory it, we pick it, and we ship it. And in the best of all worlds, and we do have accounts like this, all of those modes are touched in some form by a Duie Pyle assets. So it could be the dray, could be the truckload, could be the LTL. But along the way, though, it's stored though in one of our modern facilities. There's one in Allentown, Pennsylvania. We opened up a few years ago. It's 325,000 square feet, right in Lehigh Valley. It's in a perfect spot to service next day, 90 million people in the Northeast. So, and other buildings like that. It speaks to the investments that the company, the Latta family, third generation, Peter Latta is the CEO, the investments and the commitments that he's made and his family has made to the long term interest of both, certainly the business of the business and the business of the family. So it's an incredible story, it really is.
It really is, and I know that the more mature companies understand the location and the services that an A Dewey Pyle can provide, right? I mean, like you said, next day delivery to 90 million customers is just is or people is unbelievable. The concentration that is out there. What's the total region that assets of A Dewey Pyle reach in the United
Yeah, so
States?
we have all of Virginia. We opened up West Virginia last year, so all of West Virginia, all of Virginia, and then all the way up to to the tip of Maine. So right now we have 30 service centers. We have four more that are in the process of being onboarded. We purchased four facilities through the Yellow auction, so those will come online gradually between now and the end of the year. We're going to open up on Monday New Penn's terminal in Camp Hill, not far from where I started with Roadway in Harrisburg there. New Penn operated a 90-door dock in Camp Hill. We purchased that as part of the Yellow bankruptcy, that auction, and then Erie, Pennsylvania, Rochester, New York, and Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Yeah.
So we're
Have you
adding
reached
facilities
reached
along
into
the way.
Ohio yet? Into Ohio, John, yet or no?
Now we have a terminal in Streetsboro, Ohio, and Cleveland, and at this point in time, there's, we have a great partnership with our friends at Dayton Freight
Oh,
to the
okay. Yeah,
west
yeah,
of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So they're an amazing, amazing company. Similar, actually, their founders, the Cronin family. He worked for Roadway Express and decided to form his own company, and now they're billion three organization. Amazing. So, but they're strategic partners of ours, and we respect that. So, same with down in the southeastern freight lines. So,
Okay. Oh, and
from a
Southeastern is your other one. Gotcha.
yeah, so from a strategy perspective, we're working on our current, filling out the capacity in our current footprint.
Gotcha.
Plus Canada, and then we're certainly looking at potential into with the
Yeah.
onshoring and nearshoring into down into Mexico at some point in time with some partnerships.
Right. So we've gone through a lot of the services, or I mean, and Luciani did a great job of going through the different services as well, and the culture of A Dewey Pyle, really, and which is tremendous in the current state of freight, right? Which isn't beautiful right now. Employee or customer relations, and the sales aspect, the service aspect, the things have changed since back in the day, right? I remember when it was, who bought him a pizza last, right? Or not pizza, but or tickets to the Penn State game. I mean, boy, howdy, I had, you know, I mean, we had season tickets to Penn State. I mean, we would set up our roadway truck, camper and everything, their RV on Thursday for the Penn State game, right? And just entertain all weekend. And that's how
So
it was.
that was back in the day, and we'll go back into in my earlier days when I was a local account manager, and then definitely in national accounts. You're calling on bigger companies. There were traffic managers back then. There's this person that was called a traffic manager, or a distribution manager, or a shipping manager. I cannot remember the last time I ran into a person with the title of traffic manager. So nowadays, we generally engage with supply chain architects, supply chain managers, directors, VP, up to up to the C level, chief executive at the supply chain level. So that just shows the critical importance of supply chain. But to your point, Mike, I mean, there was a time when I was in national accounts in Pittsburgh, calling on the PPGs of the world. I belonged to a country club in north of the city, up in Gibsonia, and I had a standing 120 tea time every Friday afternoon in the summer. I never had problems filling that tea time with the leadership at, again, PPG, Mine Safety, Alcoa, all the famous names in Western PA, and we would bring them in from out of town. Roadway had a membership at Firestone Country Club. We would take big customers out there, right? So
Yeah, I lived on Firestone and did that event a lot for Roadway. Yeah, absolutely.
So and that was really because coming out of where the when the industry was deregulated, carriers were all chasing discounts. So, but again, though, we would match our discounts, and it would fall back it would fall back to the type of relationship you had with that customer and the main decision maker. So you'd walk into their office and they'd have a transit map on the wall, or the routings were based on trust and relationship. Service was important, but you could always overcome a service issue when you had that relationship
That's right.
and that trust. And it helped that you had just taken he or she to a ball game, or Penn State, or play golf with them, or whatever like that. I mean, it was not it was a KPI, or part of your position was to entertain have 3 to 5 lunches a week, have a dinner, once a week. You were encouraged, or it was required, that you have spousal entertainments. I've told
That's
people,
right.
my wife has probably my wife at the time put more freight on Roadway's trucks than I ever did, because she has a much better personality than I do. So, but that's the way it was. When you had the spouses of your main customers, trust, you were in like gold. And my wife and I, we remain friends with some of these people to this day. They're retired, but we go on cruises and vacations with some of these same people. So it remains. And these were major players at some pretty large accounts back in the day. So, but now, bring it up to really the last 10 years or so, and especially now, those relationships, it's not that they're not important, but they've what is now more important in the eyes of the financial side of organizations is certainly cost, and how can they reduce supply chain costs. And so they've brought in, more often, we see it very often now, more often than ever, is the procurement arm of organizations are now becoming very, very much aligned with their transportation departments in the bidding process. So to the point where we're seeing procurement people being told to the transportation side of the organizations, being asked, step aside. Procurement is going to go ahead and run this RFP. They're going to go ahead and use technology to pull in all the data, and then we're going to go ahead and deliver the results to the executive team, and then hand it back to our day-to-day contacts in many instances, which is the management team, to go ahead and deploy the results of that RFP on it, and then the procurement arm comes back around in a year from now and redoes a bid. So that in tandem with the continuing emergence of the 3PL community, started about 20, 25 years ago, because they had better technology than most shippers, and definitely had better technology than the carriers. So once their solutions became more mainstream, that really changed the landscape. So and it to this day, it is much, much different. I could never fill. I'm not a member of a golf club anymore, but I could, even if it was, I could never go back to the day where every Friday afternoon I would fill a foursome. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, I mean, even as a terminal manager, we had our requirements as well. that
Sure.
for I mean, we're not as strict as the national accounts and the sales reps, but as a terminal manager at Roadway Express, they required you to carry a certain number of accounts, and you had to be on those same things, which was interesting. But I think they had it right for the time that it was there. Do you find it easier now to sell, or more difficult now with these relationships and the changes in the technology? I mean, you're in a position where you're at a company that has you have the advantages of a really good company that's forward thinking, and it is employing these technologies. But generally across the board in sales, is it easier now, or do you see it more difficult for a just in general in the industry?
Well, first and foremost, I'm blessed that I work for an organization. We're a regional carrier. We're service first, right? And John spoke to this during his podcast. We have a core culture that is you put the customer first and everything else follows along. Treat your employees great. They're going to treat your customers great. So we sell a great service. So, we can adapt to the changing times. We've invested a lot in the technology to help us evaluate opportunities and then apply what we know about that opportunity and price the business. So we have great costing system. We're constantly through the dimensioners on all of our docks. We have a better understanding today than ever before of the characteristics of the business that we both handle and certainly the opportunities that are presented to us. So, but again, though, it goes back to it's supported by the great service that we offer our customer, and we can take some risk with our with our pricing strategy, knowing that if a customer tries to commoditize us, that may or may not work over the long term.
Yeah, the thought, and over the years, is and specifically over the last 7 to 10 years, is really the technology has been just advancing in transportation, right? All these new startups and new technologies, more visibility, and now you've got AI and all these things developing, right, for services. The thought process was taking away that human element to it, but then you've got all this technology, but it would allow for the relationship type of sales and management to flourish more. Are you finding that to be the case, or is it really just, it almost sounds like it's becoming a very cold and calculated type of relationship, or is that not the case?
No, that's not the case because the two of us, meaning our customers and the carriers, still have to work together. It's a people business.
Yeah.
Steve O'Kane was the president of New Penn. He came over. He got tired of the yellow gig there when he was president of New Penn. He was recruited by A. Duie Pyle to come over and be the only outside president of A. Duie Pyle, and he retired about 7 years ago. So, but he's famous for saying that it's a people business. It'll always be a people business. So it's always been a people business, and it'll always be a people business. So, and it remains that way. There's still people. There's drivers. There's myself. There's our sales organization, our operations team. When once the dust settles around the pricing, we have to work together to help each other reduce cost and make smart moves that over the longer term, we're going to benefit both organizations. And a lot of this as well is there's far fewer carriers, there's far fewer companies, far fewer customers out there because of mergers, acquisitions, companies going bankrupt. I'm talking about industry, but there's far fewer carriers as well. Just look at the most recent with the situation at Yellow. Yellow, that was 4 carriers that are no longer in business. And in the Northeast, there were over 100 carriers in 1980, just concentrating in the Northeast. And there's 3 left.
Yeah.
So, add in some of the nationals to that. But as far as pure regionals, you went from over 100 in 1980 to 3, including A. Duie Pyle.
Yeah,
So that's creating the need to nurture a partnership and a relationship on both sides. So technology will never replace that. It's a tool to help the both of us evaluate strengths and potential weaknesses.
yeah. But you don't have to sneak onto the back dock of a company and look and try and see what routing maps they had on the wall next to the desk that was next to the forklift station and that type of stuff. Right?
No,
I remember that was sales
it's
back in the day, bro. That was sales, right?
well, it's funny now. I use Google Earth, right?
Yeah,
I'll want to know who's up against the dock in wherever Cleveland, Ohio. So I'll do a quick Earth shot and see who the carrier is against the dock.
yeah, exactly. You
Yeah.
go. They wouldn't tell you who they used as a carrier, but you're looking at the dock going.
Yeah, before I would, call the terminal manager up and say, "Hey, have your driver or sales rep and just say, hey, have him go drive over there and tell me who's up against the dock."
Yeah,
Will you?
exactly. Oh, yeah, that was a common thing every day. Yeah, absolutely. Who is at this dock? Who is at that dock? I remember drivers coming in and say, "Hey, Mike, I saw yellow over at Huntington, manufacturing or Alpha Fry Metals." I was like, "Really, those bastards?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the natural competitive instinct, definitely a roadway. That competitive instinct was, I have to do something about that.
Yeah,
I'm not
immediately.
going
You
to
got to
take
do
that.
something about it immediately. Yeah, I went. I tell the story. Where I used to follow my driver out, and then right before he'd make a delivery at this particular company, I would get in the back of the trailer, and when they opened the door, I'd be standing there because I was trying to get an appointment to get all their outbound freight.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It was a much simpler world back then. It really
It
was.
was.
But,
It was fun.
I'm
It was
enjoying
fun.
myself. I mean, hey, I embrace technology, and and you have to constantly learn. And it's this whole AI phenomenon. I'm trying to read up on it and stay up on it and understand it and see how it's going to impact our operation. It definitely is. It already we're already embedding that into our costing systems and our valuation systems and our forecasting, and certainly the way we're routing our equipment and our drivers.
Fantastic stuff, John. Thank you so much. And what should we be looking forward to in this 100th year of a Duie Pyle? Is there anything on the horizon, or just more of excellent service and growth?
Yeah, so again, we'll continue to fill out our network with additional capacity, and we're always looking for new opportunities to integrate all of our services. Again, I go back to what I said is it can go from front to end. From the front, where we can, if it's an import or if it's manufactured in the U.S., we can bring it we can haul it in truckload or LTL. We can bring it in the warehouse. We can store it. We can ship a truckload. We can ship it LTL. It's all supported again by Pyle's amazing core values and culture. It's really the
Excellent
foundation
stuff.
of the company.
Excellent stuff. Thank you much, John, and God bless you, my friend. Nice catching up with you.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it. Thanks everybody for watching FEI. We'll catch you next time.